The north is cold and full of whispers.
Jon Snow's eyes snapped open. His hands flew to his chest, searching, clawing at fabric, expecting wounds, expecting blood, expecting the tearing agony of steel punching through flesh again and again and again. Nothing. His fingers found only smooth leather, whole, unbroken. He couldn't breathe. His heart hammered against ribs that shouldn't exist, lungs that had stopped working, that had filled with blood while brothers he'd trusted, while Ollie, Jon gasped, rolled sideways. His hands hit stone floor, cold, real. He was on his knees now, hyperventilating, scanning the room with eyes that couldn't focus properly. Where am I? The chamber was wrong. Too small, too warm. Furs on the bed, narrow window showing gray dawn light. Stone walls closer than they should be. This wasn't his Lord Commander's quarters. Wasn't the room where they'd? His hands. Jon stared at his hands. They were young. No ranging scars. No long claw burn across the right palm. No calluses from years of command. The fingers were longer than they should be, less weathered, the nails clean. A boy's hands. No. No, 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 no. Jon scrambled backward until his spine hit the wall. He pressed against it. Solid. Real. His breathing was too fast, too shallow. The room tilted. He was going to be sick. I died. They killed me. Ollie's face. The blade. Cold. So cold. And then, fire. Melisandre, waking on a table. The confusion. The rage. The hollowness inside where something essential had been torn away and never fully returned. But this wasn't that. This wasn't waking on Melisandre's table with wounds half healed and brothers staring at him like he was a monster. This was, Jon forced himself to look around. Really look. The chamber. He knew this chamber. The narrow window faced east. The stone was Winterfell granite. The furs on the bed were northern, and that tapestry on the wall, faded and old, showing the King of Winter, my room. This is my room at Winterfell. His childhood room. The room he'd slept in for 14 years before leaving for the Wall. I'm at Winterfell. The realization should have been comforting. Home. He was home. But his hands were still shaking. His pulse was still racing. And the wrongness of it, the impossibility, a sound at the door, footsteps in the corridor outside. Jon's body moved before his mind caught up. He was on his feet, back against the wall, positioning himself where he could see the entrance. His hand went to his hip, searching for a sword that wasn't there. For Longclaw, for any weapon, nothing. He had nothing. The footsteps passed. Kept going, fading down the corridor. Jon exhaled, realized he'd been holding his breath. His hands were clenched into fists so tight his knuckles had gone white. Get control. Breathe. Think. He was at Winterfell, in his childhood room, with young hands, in a body that felt wrong, too light, too small, muscles not where they should be. Time travel. I've traveled back in time. The thought was insane, impossible, but he'd died and come back. He'd fought the dead. He'd seen a giant. He'd flown on a dragon. Impossible didn't mean what it used to mean. When? Jon moved to the window. Slowly, his legs felt unsteady. The world still had that dissociative quality. Too bright, too sharp, slightly unreal. The view showed Winterfell's outer courtyard. Dawn light touching the walls. And below, activity. Lots of activity. Servants moving quickly. Guards in unusual positions. People preparing for something. Jon's mind, trained by years of command, automatically cataloged what he saw. Extra guards at the main gate, servants carrying fresh rushes, the kennel master herding dogs away from the main yard, smoke from the kitchens heavier than usual. A feast. They're preparing for a feast, for important guests. And then he saw it. Saw them. 4 figures crossing the yard toward the armory. 3 boys and Robb. Jon's breath caught. Robb was alive, walking, talking with Theon, both of them young, impossibly young. Robb looked maybe 14, 15 at most, hair still more red than auburn, face unlined, no crown, no weight of kingship, no northern army, no war, no betrayal at the twins. Just Robb, his brother, alive. Jon's knees went weak. He caught himself against the window frame, stared down at a ghost, at someone he'd watched die, someone whose face he'd carried with him through everything that came after. He's alive. Robb's alive. And if Robb was that young, if Jon was in his childhood room, if Winterfell was preparing for important guests, Robert Baratheon, the king is coming to Winterfell. The realization hit like a physical blow. Jon knew this day. Remembered it. The king arriving. Father, Ned, being offered the hand. Sansa being betrothed to Joffrey. The feast. Benjen arriving. Everything that had started the chain of events leading to all of it. All the loss. Everything. I'm at the beginning. Jon's hands stopped shaking. The dissociation receded slightly, pushed back by something stronger. Something he'd learned in the years after his resurrection. After the long night. After losing everything repeatedly until loss became the only constant. Purpose. He'd been given a chance. Somehow. Some power, the old gods, the Lord of Light, something, had sent him back. To this moment, this day. Before everything went wrong. I can change it. The thought was intoxicating. Terrifying. Overwhelming. I can save them. Robb. Ned. Arya. Sansa. Bran. Rickon. All of them. Everyone he'd lost. Everyone who'd died because of choices made starting today. But first, Jon closed his eyes, tried to remember. That morning. What had happened that morning? The king was arriving. They'd been groomed. The barbershop. He and Robb and Theon getting their hair cut and styled for the royal reception. Robb teasing him about being fond of his hair. Theon making bastard jokes. And then, the reception. Formal. All the Starks lined up. Robert arriving fat and drunk, and nothing like the warrior he'd been. Cersei cold and beautiful and dangerous. Joffrey, Jaime, Tyrion, the Hound. 300 people descending on Winterfell like a plague. And tonight, the feast, where Benjen arrives, where I beg him to take me to the wall, where everything started. Jon opened his eyes, looked at his reflection in the window glass. The face that looked back was young, 14, maybe 15, thin, unlined, dark hair falling past his shoulders. Gray eyes so dark they were almost black. Jon Snow, not Jon Stark, not Aegon Targaryen, not King in the North. Just Jon Snow, bastard of Winterfell. That's who everyone here thought he was. That's who he'd have to be, at least until he could. Until I can what? Tell them I'm from the future? Tell Father the truth about everything? Stop the king's visit? Keep Father from going south? The enormity of it crashed down on him. He had knowledge. He knew what was coming. But how did he use it without sounding insane? Without being dismissed as a bastard boy with delusions? One thing at a time. First, survive this day. Act normal. Don't let them see the trauma, the death, the resurrection, the wars, the losses. All of it screaming inside his head while he pretended to be a boy who'd never left Winterfell. Jon straightened, forced his breathing to steady, pressed his palms flat against his thighs until they stopped trembling. He'd learned to control himself after the resurrection. After nights waking up choking, after flashbacks to the mutiny, after seeing Ollie's face every time he closed his eyes. He could do this. He had to. A scraping sound. The door opening. Jon spun, positioning himself. "My lord?" A serving girl. Young, maybe 12. Carrying a basin of water. She stopped when she saw him. "Sorry, my lord. Didn't mean to startle. Thought you'd still be abed." Jon's first instinct was to correct her. He wasn't a lord. He was a steward. A lord commander. No. Here. Now. I'm Jon Snow. Ned Stark's bastard son. She calls me M-Lord out of courtesy, even though I have no right to it. "It's fine," Jon said. His voice came out rougher than intended. He cleared his throat. Tried again. "Thank you." The girl set the basin down. Curtsied. Left quickly. Jon stared at the water. Saw his reflection. That young face. Those haunted eyes that didn't match the smooth skin. I have to be careful. Can't let them see. Can't let anyone know something's wrong. He splashed water on his face. Cold. Shocking. Real. The physical sensation helped ground him. Pushed back the dissociation another inch. Today. What happens today? The king arrives. We line up. Father greets him. Robert asks to see the crypts. They go to see Lyanna's tomb. Robert offers father the hand position, offers Sansa to Joffrey. And father doesn't refuse, not immediately. He wants to, but mother convinces him because of Lysa's letter, because they think the Lannisters murdered Jon Arryn, because everything is already in motion and no one knows the truth. But I know the truth. Jon dried his face, looked at himself in the water's reflection, saw a boy who'd died, who'd come back, who'd fought impossible wars, who'd lost everyone, who'd been given a chance he didn't understand and didn't deserve. I know the Lannisters didn't kill Jon Arryn. Lysa did, on Littlefinger's orders. I know Joffrey is Jaime's son. I know Robert will die. I know Ned will die. I know the Red Wedding. I know the Long Night. I know all of it, and he had maybe hours to figure out how to stop it. One thing at a time. First, survive the grooming session. Act normal. Don't let Robb see anything wrong. Second, observe. Watch Robert. Watch Cersei. Watch Jaime. Catalog the threats. Third, wait for the right moment. Find father alone. Tell him what? That I'm from the future? He'll think I'm mad. Unless Jon proved it. Unless he knew things only someone from the future could know. Unless he knew things about father's greatest secret. About my mother. About Lyanna. About the Tower of Joy. Jon's hands clenched. He'd learned the truth. Bran had shown him. Or the three-eyed raven had. Or the memory was confused, tangled with magic and visions and revelations that had broken something fundamental in his understanding of himself. I'm not Ned Stark's bastard. I'm Lyanna's son, Rhaegar's son, Aegon Targaryen, legitimate heir to the Iron Throne. The knowledge sat in his chest like a stone. Here, now. No one knew. Father had kept the secret for 14 years, had sacrificed his honor, had let everyone think he'd betrayed his wife, had let Jon grow up as a bastard, all to protect him from Robert, from anyone who would kill Targaryen children. Father knows, and only father knows, except Howland Reed, Lord of Greywater Watch, the only other man who'd survived the Tower of Joy, the only other man who knew the truth. If I tell father things only someone at the Tower of Joy would know, he'll have to listen. He'll have to believe something happened, something impossible, something that gave me knowledge I shouldn't have. Jon's mind was clearing, the panic receding, replaced by the cold clarity he'd developed after resurrection, after command, after making impossible decisions in impossible situations. I need to reach father before he agrees to go south, before he accepts Robert's offer, before mother convinces him with Lysa's letter. I have today, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow morning. That's my window. And tomorrow, Bran. Bran falls tomorrow. Jon's chest tightened. Bran, his little brother, who'd fallen from a tower and woken changed. Who'd become the three-eyed raven. Who'd lost everything human to become something else, something necessary. Something that had helped them win the long night, but at a cost Jon still didn't fully understand. Bran falls because he climbs, because he sees Jaime and Cersei, because Jaime pushes him to protect the secret. Could Jon stop it? Should he stop it? What if Bran needed to fall? What if that fall was necessary for everything that came after? No. Bran was 10 years old. He didn't need to be crippled, didn't need to lose himself to visions and magic. I can prevent it. I will prevent it. But first, today, the king's arrival, the reception, the feast, and I need to act like Jon Snow, like a 14-year-old bastard boy who's excited and nervous and hasn't died and come back and watched everyone he loves get destroyed. Jon took a breath, another, forced his body into the posture he remembered, slightly hunched, trying to make himself smaller, less noticeable, the bastard's posture. The careful invisibility he'd practiced for years before the wall taught him to stand straight. It felt wrong. Everything felt wrong, but he made himself do it. A knock at the door, louder this time, insistent. "Jon, you awake?" Theon's voice, sharp, mocking. "They're waiting in the barber shop. Robb's already there. You coming or you planning to meet the king looking like a wildling?" Jon's hands clenched. Theon. Theon who'd betray them? Who'd take Winterfell? Who'd pretend to kill Bran and Rickon? Hood? No, not yet. Here, now, Theon is just Theon. Father's ward, Robb's friend, an arrogant boy who hasn't made his choices yet. Coming, Jon called. His voice was steadier now. Almost normal. He dressed quickly. Dark leathers, wool tunic, simple clothes, bastard clothes. Not as fine as what Robb would wear. Not as decorated, just functional northern garb that kept him warm and out of the way. The sword belt on the wall. Jon reached for it automatically, stopped, looked at his hand. His young, unscarred hand. I don't have Longclaw yet. That comes later. After I join the Watch. After Mormont gives it to me. The sword on the belt was practice steel. A training blade. Nothing like the Valyrian steel he'd carried for years. Nothing like the weight he'd become accustomed to. But he buckled it on anyway. The weight helped, made him feel less defenseless. Jon opened the door, stepped into the corridor. Familiar stones, familiar tapestries, familiar everything except nothing was familiar, because he'd been gone so long and died and come back and focus, one step at a time. Get through the grooming, get through the reception, find father, tell him the truth, save them, save everyone. He walked down the corridor, each step taking him closer to the barber shop, closer to pretending, closer to the beginning of everything. And inside his chest, where something had been broken and never quite healed, Jon felt something he hadn't felt in years. Since before the Night King, since before the dragon, since before everything. Hope. Maybe he could do this. Maybe he could change it. Maybe he could save them all. Or maybe he'd just watch them die again. Watch helplessly as the same events unfolded. As father rode south. As Bran fell. As everything he knew was coming came anyway despite his knowledge. No. I won't let that happen. I can't. Jon Snow had died, had come back, had fought impossible battles, had lost everything. This time would be different. This time he'd save them, or die trying. The barbershop was in one of Winterfell's older sections, a small chamber with good light from a south-facing window. Jon had been here 100 times as a boy. Got his hair trimmed, beard shaped, always by the same man, old Gerald, who'd been cutting Stark hair for 30 years. Jon paused at the door. Heard voices inside. Robb laughing at something. Theon's mocking tone. Normal sounds. Familiar sounds. Sounds he hadn't heard in... How long? How many years since I heard Robb laugh like that? He pushed the door open. Robb sat in the barber's chair, Gerald working on his hair with shears. Theon lounged against the wall, playing with a dagger. Both of them looked up when Jon entered, and Jon froze, because Robb was right there. 3 feet away, alive, young, unscarred, not bleeding out on a floor at the Twins with a crown mocking him and a crossbow bolt in. There he is, Theon said. The sleeping beauty. Thought you'd decided to avoid us. Too good for the barbershop now that the king's coming. Jon forced himself to move, to walk into the room, to act normal. Overslept. Robb's gray eyes, father's eyes, were amused. On today of all days? The king arriving and you oversleep? What were you doing last night, sneaking off to Wintertown? The teasing was gentle, affectionate, the way Robb had always teased him when they were alone, when there weren't other lords around to see a true-born son being too familiar with a bastard. Jon's throat tightened. Just slept badly. Bad dreams? Robb asked. Something shifted in his expression. Concern. You look... I'm fine. Jon interrupted. Too sharp. He softened his tone. Just nervous. About the king. We're all nervous, Robb said. He stood as Gerald finished, brushed hair from his shoulders. 300 Southerners descending on us. Father says we have to be on our best behavior. No mistakes, no insults. Everything perfect. Perfect, Theon echoed. Because gods forbid the king sees that the north is actually full of boring people who don't know how to have fun. You'll have plenty of fun at the feast, Robb said. I heard the king's bringing his own casks. Dornish wine. Arbor gold. Everything. And women, Theon added. Bet there are some southern beauties in that party. Bet you could embarrass House Stark? Robb's tone had an edge now. Father's already warned you. You're representing House Greyjoy. Act accordingly. Theon's face darkened. For a moment, Jon saw it. The flash of resentment. The reminder that Theon was a ward, A hostage, not a true son, not family despite years of living as one. He hates it, hates being reminded. And that hate is what makes him vulnerable later, what makes him betray us to prove himself. Your turn, Jon, Gerald said, gesturing to the chair. Jon sat. The chair was familiar. The worn leather, the smell of soap and oil. Gerald moved behind him, lifting Jon's hair, examining it. Been letting this grow, Gerald muttered. You're getting as shaggy as a wildling. Need to take better care of yourself, boy. The words were casual, normal, the same words Gerald had probably said 100 times. But they hit Jon wrong. Wildling. He'd lived with the wildlings, loved one, watched her die in his arms, his hands clenched on the chair arms. Easy, Gerald said. Just hair. Won't hurt. Robb was watching him. Jon could feel his brother's eyes, assessing, noting Jon's tension. He knows me too well. Knows something's off. So, Theon said, breaking the silence, excited to meet the king, Snow? The question was loaded, because Jon wouldn't meet the king. Not formally. He was a bastard. He'd be present at the feast, seated far away with squires and minor household members. But he wouldn't be presented, wouldn't stand in the line with the trueborn Starks, would be kept carefully out of sight so as not to insult the queen. I'll see him at the feast, Jon said carefully. If Catelyn lets you attend, Theon added. Cruel. Heard her telling the servants you should eat in the kitchen. Keep you away from the high table so the queen doesn't take offense. Jon's jaw clenched. Mother, Catelyn, who'd hated him his entire life, who'd made sure he knew he wasn't wanted, who'd once told him it should have been you when Bran was dying. Except she's not my mother. Lyanna was. Lyanna who died bringing me into the world. Lyanna who father loved so much he lied for 14 years to protect her son. Jon will attend, Robb said firmly. Father said so. Jon's family, bastard or not, he's family. The words were meant to be comforting, supportive, but they still stung, bastard or not. Because that's what everyone thought. What everyone would always think unless Jon told them the truth. Unless I tell them I'm Aegon Targaryen, that I have a better claim to the throne than Robert. That father's been lying to everyone, including his wife, for my entire life. The shears were cold against Jon's neck. Gerald worked quietly, cutting away length, shaping Jon's hair into something more presentable. Heard Benjen's coming, Robb said. For the feast. Father sent him a raven. Jon's chest tightened. Benjen, Uncle Benjen. First Ranger of the Night's Watch. Who'd recruited Jon. Who Jon had loved. Who'd vanished beyond the wall and come back as something else. Something dead and alive. Something that could barely speak. Something that had to stay in the cold or burn. That's good, Jon managed. His voice was steadier than he felt. I haven't seen him in months. You're still planning to take the black? Robb asked. Quiet? Careful. Really going through with it? Jon had begged to go to the wall, had seen it as escape, as a place where he could be something other than Ned Stark's bastard, where he could have honor, purpose, brotherhood. And I got all of that, and I lost all of that, and I died for it. I don't know, Jon said. The words came out before he could stop them. Robb's eyebrows rose. You don't know? Jon, you've been talking about the wall for months, about taking the black, about becoming a ranger. What changed? I died. I came back. I learned I never needed to be there, that I should have been here. With you, with all of you. That everything I ran from was a lie. Just thinking about it, Jon said. It's a big decision. It's the only decision for you, Theon said. Blunt. What else are you going to do? You can't inherit. Can't marry high. Can't stay here forever. The wall's perfect for bastards. You get to be a hero instead of just this. The words were meant to hurt, to remind Jon of his place. And they did hurt, but not the way Theon intended. They hurt because Jon had believed them once, had internalized them, had let the bastard label define him until the wall stripped it away and made him something else. There are worse things than being a man of the Night's Watch, Robb said, defending Jon. Always defending him. They protect the realm. Guard against what? Theon laughed. Grumpkins and snarks? The wildlings barely raid anymore, and everything else is just stories. The White Walkers are dead, Have been for 8,000 years. No, they're not. They're coming. And in a few years you'll wish we'd spent less time fighting each other and more time preparing for them. But Jon couldn't say that, couldn't explain. Couldn't make them understand something they'd never believe. All done, Gerald announced. He brushed hair from Jon's shoulders. Have a look. He held up a mirror. Jon looked at his reflection and saw a stranger. Saw the face he'd worn at 14. Before the wall. Before everything. Hair trimmed. Face clean. Young. Undamaged. But the eyes. The eyes were wrong. Too old. Too haunted. The eyes of someone who'd died and come back. You look good, Robb said. He clapped Jon on the shoulder. Friendly. Brotherly. Ready to impress the king? Jon stood. Tested his balance. Everything still felt wrong. Body too light, muscles in the wrong places, movements not quite right. Ready as I'll be, Jon said. Then let's go, Robb said. Father wanted us all assembled early. Full reception. Everyone in their places. They left the barber shop together, walked through Winterfell's corridors toward the main courtyard. Robb and Theon talking about the feast, about the hunt tomorrow, about everything except what mattered. And Jon walked with them, pretending, watching, cataloging threats, because somewhere in the king's party would be Jaime Lannister, who would push Bran from a tower tomorrow, who Jon would need to stop somehow, because somewhere in that party would be Cersei, who would poison Robert, who would start a war that would kill thousands, because somewhere in that party would be Joffrey, who would order Father's execution, who would torture Sansa, who would be the first domino in a chain of horrors. And Jon had to figure out how to stop all of it, one thing at a time. Get through the reception, observe, learn, then find Father. Tell him the truth. Tell him everything. They reached the courtyard. The whole household was assembling. Servants in their best clothes, guards in polished armor, everyone preparing for the moment when Robert Baratheon, King of the Seven Kingdoms, arrived at Winterfell. Jon found his place, off to the side, not with the trueborn Starks, but close enough to watch. The bastard's position, carefully visible enough to show respect, but not so prominent as to insult. And as he stood there, waiting for the king who would destroy everything, Jon Snow, who'd died and come back, who'd fought the Night King, who'd killed the woman he loved, made a promise. This time will be different. This time I'll save them. All of them. No matter what it costs. The reception, the Stark family assembled in a line before the main gate. Jon watched from his position near the stables, close enough to observe but far enough to remain appropriately invisible. Father stood at the center. Ned Stark, Lord of Winterfell, Warden of the North. The man Jon had believed was his father for 14 years. The man who'd sacrificed his honor to protect Lyanna's son. Looking at him now, truly looking, Jon saw things he'd missed as a boy. The weight Ned carried, the sadness in his gray eyes, the careful control that kept him from showing anything he felt. The honor that had been his strength and his weakness. He's going to die. In a few months, Joffrey will order his execution. And Father won't run, won't fight, won't protect himself because he made promises to Robert. Because honor matters more than survival. Jon's hands clenched. He'd watched Father die, had gotten the news at the wall, had felt his world shatter. And now Father was right there, alive, unaware of what was coming. I have to stop it. Have to keep him from going south. Mother stood beside Father. Catelyn Tully, Lady of Winterfell, beautiful in a dark blue dress that matched her eyes. Her red hair was braided, her face was composed, proper, the perfect lady. And she hated Jon, had always hated him, had made his childhood a careful dance of avoidance and small cruelties, because she thought I was Ned's bastard. Proof that he'd betrayed her. But I'm not. I'm Lyanna's son, and if she knew, would it matter? Would knowing make her treat him differently? Or would a Targaryen in her household be even worse than a bastard? Robb stood to Father's right, the heir, tall for his age, handsome, strong, already looking like the lord he'd become. The king in the north, who fought a war and never lost a battle until he trusted the wrong man. Until he went to the twins for a wedding and never left. Sansa beside him, 11 years old and already beautiful. Red hair like her mother, blue eyes, delicate features, dreaming of kings and queens and southern knights. Sansa, who will be betrothed to Joffrey today, who will suffer for years, who will be trapped in King's Landing watching father die, who will be abused and betrayed and broken and eventually emerge harder than steel. Arya next, 9 years old, already restless in her dress, gray eyes, dark hair, the most Stark-looking of all of them, except Jon himself. Arya, who I gave Needle to, who became an assassin, who killed the Night King, who survived when so many didn't. Bran, 7 years old, excited, practically bouncing, eager to see the king, eager to climb and explore, and who will fall tomorrow, who will be crippled, who will become the three-eyed raven and lose himself to visions and magic and ancient knowledge. And Rickon, 3 years old, held by Maester Luwin because he was too young to stand in line properly, too young to understand what was happening. Rickon, who will die, shot with arrows after being betrayed, the last of my brothers except Bran, who wasn't really Bran anymore. Jon's chest hurt looking at them, at all of them, at his family who would be destroyed by what started today. I can save them. I will save them. Horns blew. The outer gates were opening. The king was here. The royal party entered Winterfell like a conquering army. Hundreds of people, horses, wagons, banners. The crowned stag of House Baratheon, the lion of House Lannister, gold cloaks, Kingsguard in white, so much wealth and power it made Winterfell look small and poor by comparison. And at the head of the column, riding a massive horse that looked too small for him, Robert Baratheon. Jon had never truly met Robert, had seen him at a distance as a boy, had heard stories, had known him as the king who'd won the throne, who'd loved Lyanna Stark, who'd started a war when she was taken. The man riding toward them was nothing like those stories. He was fat, not just heavy, truly fat. His armor couldn't close properly around his belly. His face was red and bloated. His beard was thick and unkempt. He rode like a man who'd rather be drinking. This is the man who killed Rhaegar Targaryen, who shattered the Targaryen dynasty, who became king. And look at him now, destroyed by wine and whores and grief he drowned instead of facing. Behind Robert rode the queen, Cersei Lannister, beautiful, cold, her blonde hair perfect, her green eyes missing nothing. She looked at Winterfell with barely concealed contempt, looked at the north like it was beneath her, looked at everything with the arrogance of someone who believed herself untouchable. Cersei, who will start a war, who will burn King's Landing, who will destroy everything she touches trying to hold power. And beside her, Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer, golden-haired, handsome, arrogant, wearing white Kingsguard armor that shone in the morning sun, looking bored and amused and utterly unconcerned with anything around him. Jaime, who will push Bran tomorrow, who will cripple my brother to protect his secret, who I need to stop somehow. The column halted. Robert dismounted, awkwardly, needing help. He strode toward father. No ceremony, no formality. Just walked up like they were still young men instead of king and subject. Ned, Robert's voice boomed. Gods, you haven't changed. Still the same solemn face. Still look like someone died. Your grace. Father's bow was proper. Respectful. Winterfell is yours. Winterfell is mine, Robert repeated. He looked at the castle, at the yard, at everything. It's smaller than I remember. Or I'm just bigger. He laughed, slapped his belly. Look at me, fat as a boar. You still slim as the day we met. You look well, Your Grace. I look fat and you're too polite to say it. Robert's eyes moved past father, to the children. These yours? Gods, you've been busy. How many is that? 5. 5, Your Grace. And my ward, Theon Greyjoy. Greyjoy, Robert's expression hardened. The Kraken's last living son. How is he? Obedient, Your Grace. Obedient, Robert snorted. I'd be obedient too if my father had rebelled and lost. Where's the bastard? Jon? You named him Jon after Jon Arryn? Jon tensed. Father had mentioned him, had acknowledged his existence to the king. Jon is here, father said. Careful. Neutral. He wished to pay respects. Bastards. Robert shook his head. You were always too honorable, Ned. Should have hidden him. Kept him out of sight. But I suppose that's not your way. He turned to Cersei. My lady wife, May I present Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North. My oldest friend." Cersei's smile was cold, perfect. "Lord Stark, your castle is charming, very northern. Thank you, Your Grace." Father's tone was neutral, but Jon saw the tension in his shoulders, the way he held himself. Father didn't like Cersei, didn't trust her. Good. He shouldn't. She's dangerous, more dangerous than Robert realizes. The presentations continued, each child introduced, Robb bowing properly, Sansa curtsying perfectly, Arya fidgeting, Bran excited, Rickon confused. And this, Father said carefully, is my son, Jon Snow. Jon stepped forward. The bastard, being acknowledged but not truly presented, existing in that careful space between family and outsider. Robert looked at him, really looked, gray eyes that had seen too much war studying a boy he'd never met. "Snow." Robert's tone was thoughtful. "You have the Stark look, more than the others. Must favor your mother. You have no idea how right you are. I favor Lyanna. You're Lyanna, the woman you loved and lost. I'm her son. And if you knew, you'd kill me." "Yes, Your Grace," Jon said, quiet, respectful, playing the bastard role perfectly. Robert grunted, looked away, dismissing Jon as unimportant. He has no idea, none of them do, that the bastard boy standing here is actually Aegon Targaryen, that I have a better claim to his throne than he does, that everything he believes about Robert's rebellion is a lie. The reception continued, royal party being shown to their quarters, servants scurrying, arrangements being made, the organized chaos of hosting 300 unexpected guests. Jon watched from his peripheral position, watched Jaime, watched Cersei, watched Joffrey, cruel-faced and smirking, watched all the threats gathering in his family's home, and he planned how to reach Father, how to tell him the truth, how to convince him to refuse the king's offer, how to keep them all safe. But first, Jon, a hand on his shoulder. Jon spun, positioning himself, hand going to where a sword should be. "Father." It was Father, looking at him with concern. "Easy," Father said. "Quiet. It's just me." Jon forced himself to relax, to breathe, to not show how close he'd come to attacking. "Sorry," Jon muttered. "I'm just nervous." "I know." Father's gray eyes studied him. "But that's not all." "Is it?" "Something's wrong. I can see it. He knows me. Knows when something's off. Because he raised me. Because he loves me even if he can't say it publicly." "I need to speak with you," Jon said. "Quiet. Urgent. Privately. Soon. Today if possible." Father's expression sharpened. "What's wrong?" "I can't explain here. But it's important. More important than anything. Please." A long moment. Father weighing Jon's words, seeing the desperation Jon couldn't fully hide. "Tonight," Father said, "after the feast. Meet me in the crypts. We'll talk there." "The crypts. Perfect. Private. Where Lyanna's tomb is. Where I can prove what I know." "Thank you," Jon said. Father squeezed his shoulder. Once. Brief. The most affection he could show publicly to his bastard son. Then he was gone. Called away by Robert. By duty. By the chains already forming that would drag him south to his death. Unless Jon stopped it. Tonight. In the crypts. Jon would tell Father everything. And pray to whatever gods existed that Father believed him. The feast, the great hall of Winterfell, had been transformed. Long tables filled every available space, crowded with plates and cups and trenchers. Servants moved between them carrying platters of food, roasted meats, fresh bread, vegetables glazed with butter, pies both savory and sweet. The smell was overwhelming, rich, abundant, the kind of feast Winterfell threw once a year at most, now demanded on a few hours' notice. Torches blazed in their brackets. Candles covered every surface. The high table on its dais had been decorated with banners, the dire wolf of House Stark on one side, the crowned stag of House Baratheon on the other. Places set for dozens of important people. The lords and ladies, the king and queen, the heirs and the honored. Jon sat at the far end of a side table. Near the door, with the squires and lesser household members, close enough to be present, but far enough to remain invisible. The bastard's place. Carefully calculated to show respect without presuming equality. He'd been here 100 times as a boy. Sat in this exact spot for every feast. Watched his siblings at the high table while he ate with people who didn't quite know what to say to him. The Ned Stark's bastard who lived in the castle, but couldn't be acknowledged. The boy who looked more Stark than the trueborn children but would never carry the name. But that was before. When he'd been a boy who believed the lie. Before the wall. Before command. Before death and resurrection and learning the truth. Now Jon sat here and watched threats. The high table was full. Robert Baratheon at the center, holding court. Already drunk. Already bellowing stories about the old days, about the rebellion, about battles fought and won. His voice carried across the hall. Father sat beside him, laughing at Robert's stories, but the laughter was forced. Jon could see it, the tension in Father's shoulders, the careful way he held himself. The mask of the dutiful friend that didn't quite hide his discomfort. He doesn't want this, doesn't want the king here, doesn't want to go south. But he'll do it anyway because Robert asks, because duty demands it, because honor is more important than wisdom. Catelyn sat on Father's other side, beautiful in her formal dress, smiling, playing the perfect hostess, but her eyes were sharp, watching everything, making sure every detail was correct. Every southern guest was properly impressed. She's already thinking about it, about Father going south, about Sansa becoming queen, about advancement for House Stark. She doesn't see the trap, none of them do. Cersei sat beside Robert, not touching him, not even looking at him. Her attention was on Sansa, who sat nearby, studying the girl, evaluating, already planning how to use her. She's going to offer Sansa to Joffrey, going to promise Sansa everything she's ever dreamed of, marriage to a prince, becoming queen, fairy tale romance, and it will be a nightmare. Years of abuse and betrayal and survival. Joffrey sat further down the table. 12 years old and already cruel. Jon could see it in the way he treated servants, the way he mocked people, the casual cruelty that would only get worse with power. That boy will order Father's execution, will torture Sansa, will start a war, and no one sees it. They see a prince, an heir, a boy who will be king. Jaime Lannister stood against the wall with the other Kingsguard, white armor gleaming, golden hair perfect, looking bored. But his eyes moved constantly, watching, calculating, a warrior in peacetime pretending not to be dangerous. Tomorrow morning, while the men are hunting, he'll find somewhere private with Cersei, and Bran will climb. We'll see them, we'll fall. Jon's hands clenched under the table. 24 hours. That's all the time he had before Bran fell, before everything started. Unless I stop it, unless I keep Bran from climbing, or keep Jaime and Cersei from having somewhere private, or Jon had to do something more permanent. Remove Jaime entirely. Kill him if necessary. The thought should have bothered him, should have triggered some moral hesitation. But Jon had killed, had executed men, had stabbed the woman he loved through the heart to save the realm. Morality was a luxury he couldn't afford anymore. Whatever it takes. I'll do whatever it takes to protect them. Music started. Musicians Robert had brought played southern songs, too fast, too light for northern tastes. But the guests seemed to enjoy it, especially when servants brought out more wine, Dornish red, Arbor gold, ale from the Reach. Robert had brought enough alcohol to drown Winterfell. Enjoying yourself, Snow? Jon looked up. Theon had approached his table. Already drunk, swaying slightly, grinning with false camaraderie. The feast is fine, Jon said. Neutral, careful, fine. Theon laughed. Always so careful, so proper, even when you're sitting down here with the squires instead of up there with your family. Not my family, not legally. I'm the bastard. I don't belong at the high table. I've never belonged. That's where I sit, Jon said. That's where they make you sit, Theon corrected. He dropped onto the bench beside Jon. Because Catelyn doesn't want you near the queen, doesn't want anyone asking questions about who you are, about who your mother was, about why Ned Stark's famous honor didn't stop him from fathering a bastard. Jon's jaw clenched. Theon was drunk, mean, prodding at wounds he knew were there. He's trying to establish dominance, make himself feel better by making me feel worse. It's what he does. What he's always done. Leave it alone, Theon. Why? Sensitive subject? Want to defend your Lord Father's honor? Theon's grin widened. Tell me, Snow, do you even know who your mother was? Has Ned ever told you? Or does he keep that secret so close even his bastard doesn't know? I know. I know exactly who my mother was. Lyanna Stark, the woman Father loved more than anything. The woman who died bringing me into the world. The woman whose tomb is in the crypts below us. I know who my mother was, Jon said. Quiet, controlled. Do you? Theon leaned closer. Because I've heard theories. Servants gossip. Some say it was a Dornish woman. Some say a tavern wench. Some say someone highborn, which is why Ned won't talk about it. So which is it, Snow? Who was she? Jon stood, carefully, keeping his movements controlled despite the anger burning in his chest. Enjoy the feast, Theon, Jon said. He walked away before he did something he'd regret. The courtyard was quieter, colder, the feast noises muffled by stone walls. Jon breathed in the night air, let it cool his anger, ground himself. Theon's drunk, cruel, but he's not wrong. No one knows who my mother was. They've wondered for years, and Father's never told anyone. Footsteps behind him. Jon turned, positioned himself, Tyrion Lannister, the dwarf, Cersei's younger brother, standing maybe 4.5 feet tall, mismatched eyes studying Jon with unexpected intelligence. Forgive the intrusion, Tyrion said. His voice was cultured, amused. I saw you leave and thought someone should check you weren't freezing to death. Northern hospitality is one thing, but pneumonia seems excessive. Jon had met Tyrion briefly on the road north, had liked him despite himself. The dwarf was clever, honest in ways his siblings weren't, capable of surprising kindness, and he'll help me later. Will give me advice, will treat me like a person instead of a bastard. One of the few Lannisters worth knowing. I'm fine, Jon said. Just needed air. Ah, the feast too much? Tyrion produced a wineskin. Drank. I find southern gatherings exhausting myself. Too much false cheer. Too many people pretending to like each other. Something like that, you're Ned Stark's bastard. Not a question. Jon Snow. I remember, we spoke briefly on the road. We did. You're planning to join the Night's Watch. Take the black. Guard the realm against grumpkins and snarks. Tyrion's tone was gently mocking. Noble calling for a bastard. Better than most alternatives. I did join. Did take the black. Became a steward, then a ranger, then Lord Commander. And it destroyed me. Killed me. Brought me back wrong. Maybe, Jon said. Maybe. Tyrion raised an eyebrow. Having second thoughts? Most bastards would jump at the chance. Brotherhood. Purpose. A place where noble birth doesn't matter. What's holding you back? Jon looked at him. Really looked. Saw someone who understood what it meant to be dismissed. To be looked down on. To be judged for circumstances of birth rather than character. He's genuine. Actually curious. Not mocking. Not cruel. Just interested. Things are more complicated than they seem, Jon said carefully. The choices that look right aren't always right. And sometimes the only way to protect what matters is to stay instead of go. Tyrion studied him. That's remarkably philosophical for a boy of, what? 14? 15? Most boys your age are thinking about girls and glory, not the complicated nature of duty. Maybe I've had to grow up faster. Being a bastard will do that. Tyrion drank again. I know something about being unwanted, about being the shame of your family, about watching siblings who did nothing to earn their position enjoy privileges you'll never have. It changes you, makes you either bitter or wise, sometimes both. You're not bitter, Jon observed. Oh, I'm extraordinarily bitter. Tyrion grinned. I just hide it well with wine and wit, and the occasional book. Speaking of which, you read, Snow? When I can. Good. Never stop. Books are better than people. They tell you the truth without trying to hurt you. Well, most of the time. He paused. Your uncle's inside. Benjen Stark, first ranger of the Night's Watch. I met him earlier. Interesting man. Very serious about his duty. Benjen, who I begged to take me north, who vanished beyond the wall and came back as something else. Something cold and dead that could still fight. I know. Jon said. I'll speak with him. Before you pledge your life to freezing on a wall defending against myths, Tyrion shook his head. Make sure you know what you're giving up, Snow. The Night's Watch takes everything. Your name, your family, your future. Any children you might have, any life you might build. Once you say those vows, you're theirs until you die. And from what I understand, life on the wall is brutal. Cold, lonely, dangerous. Men die there, and no one remembers them. I died there, was murdered by my own brothers, came back wrong, and Benjen's right. No one remembers. No one cares. The Watch is a joke now, a dumping ground for criminals and bastards. Not the honorable brotherhood it should be. I'll think about it, Jon said. Do. Tyrion turned to go. Paused. One more thing, Snow. The thing about being unwanted, about being dismissed and underestimated, is that it gives you freedom. People who don't expect anything from you can't be disappointed. And people who don't see you as a threat won't guard against you. Use that. Be smarter than they think. Be more capable than they believe. And when the time comes, prove them all wrong. He walked away, back toward the feast, leaving Jon alone in the courtyard. He's right. They don't see me as a threat, the bastard boy. Unimportant, invisible. That's an advantage. I can move. Act, do things they won't expect. The door to the great hall opened. Light and noise spilled out. And then, Benjen Stark, first ranger of the Night's Watch, father's younger brother, tall, lean, dressed in black with the wolf head clasp of a ranger. Gray eyes, scanning the courtyard until they found Jon. Joan. Benjen's voice was warm. Hiding from the feast? Getting air, uncle. I don't blame you. It's a madhouse in there. Robert's drinking himself into a stupor. Again, Benjen approached, looked Jon over. You've grown. Taller. Broader in the shoulders, becoming a man. I am a man. I've been a man for years. I've commanded, fought, died. I'm not the boy you remember. Growing, Jon agreed. Your father said you wanted to speak with me. About the wall? About taking the black? Benjen's expression was serious now. Is that still true? This is where I begged him. Where I said I wanted to join. To be a ranger. To find purpose at the wall. And he told me I didn't understand. That I was too young. That the Watch takes everything. I'm not sure anymore, Jon said. Benjen's eyebrows rose. Not sure. Jon, you've been talking about the wall for months. You told your father you wanted this. Wanted to serve. Wanted to be a man of the Night's Watch. What changed? Jon stopped. How could he explain? I need to think more. About what it means. About what I'd be giving up. Good. Benjen's response surprised him. That's exactly what you should do. Think. Consider. Because the Watch isn't what you imagine, Jon. It's not glorious rangers riding beyond the wall to fight wildlings. It's freezing duty on top of a 700-foot wall of ice. It's watching and waiting and dying slowly of cold and boredom. And the men, they're not heroes. They're rapists and thieves and murderers sent there instead of being executed. Men who took the black to avoid the rope. I know. I learned. The hard way. Then why do you serve? Jon asked. Because someone has to. Benjen's voice was firm. Because the wall protects the realm. Because the oath means something even if the men who swear it don't always live up to it. But Jon, you're 14. You have options. You're Ned Stark's son, bastard or not. You could have a life here. A place. Maybe not as a lord, but as someone valued. Don't throw that away without being certain. I was certain. I begged you to take me. And you did. And it killed me. What if I stayed? Jon asked. What if I didn't take the black? What would happen? Benjen considered. You'd remain at Winterfell. Help your father manage the household. Train with Robb. Maybe eventually serve as a household knight or advisor. It's not a bad life, Jon. Just different from what you imagined. And if father goes south, becomes Hand of the King, then you'd stay here. Help hold Winterfell in his absence. Watch over your brothers. Benjen paused. Why? Is Ned going south? Robert's going to offer him the hand, tonight probably, in the crypts when they visit Lyanna's tomb. And father will want to refuse. But mother will convince him because of Lysa's letter, because she thinks the Lannisters killed Jon Arryn, because she doesn't see the trap. The king will ask him. Jon said, everyone knows that's why Robert's here, to make father hand, to take him to King's Landing. And you think Ned will accept? I think he'll be convinced to, even though he shouldn't. Benjen's eyes sharpened. That's a strange thing to say. Why shouldn't Ned accept? Being hand is an honor, a duty to the realm, because it will kill him, because Cersei and Littlefinger and the whole nest of vipers in King's Landing will destroy him, because father's honor is his weakness, and they'll use it against him, because King's Landing is dangerous, Jon said, careful, testing how much he could say, because the Lannisters control everything there, because father's best friend being king doesn't mean father will be safe. How do you know this? Because I've lived it, because I've seen what happens, because I carry the knowledge of years that haven't happened yet. I have a feeling, a bad feeling about all of this. Benjen studied him, really studied him. You're different, since this morning. Since the king arrived, something's changed. What is it, Jon? He sees it, of course he does. He's a ranger, trained to observe, to notice details, to sense when something's wrong. I can't explain, Jon said. Not yet. But uncle, if father asks your advice about going south, tell him not to. Tell him to stay north, to keep his family here. Please, that's not my place. It should be, you're his brother. You can say things others can't, and he trusts you. Even if that were true, why would I? Give me a reason, Jon. A real reason why Ned should refuse the king. Because he'll die. Because they'll all suffer. Because Sansa will be tortured and Arya will run, and Bran will fall and Robb will march to war and die at a wedding. And Rickon will be betrayed and everything good will be destroyed. But Jon couldn't say any of that. Not without sounding insane. Just trust me, Jon said. Please, tell him to stay north. Benjen was quiet for a long moment. I'll consider it. But Jon, you need to tell me what's going on. What you know, why you're so certain danger is coming. Tonight, after the feast, I'm meeting father in the crypts. If you can be there, if you can hear what I tell him, maybe you'll understand. The crypts. Why there? Because I need to tell him about my mother, about who she really was, about what he's been hiding. Benjen went very still. What do you know about your mother? Everything. Jon met his uncle's eyes. I know the truth. All of it. And it's time father stopped lying. Silence. Benjen staring at him with an expression Jon couldn't read. Shock. Fear. Something else. How? Benjen started. Stopped. Jon, if this is some attempt to force Ned to acknowledge you, it's not. I don't want acknowledgement. I want the truth told so father understands what's at stake, so he understands why he can't go south. Why none of us can. You can't possibly know. The Tower of Joy, Jon said. Quiet, firm. Father and 6 others rode there, found 3 Kingsguard. Arthur Dane. Gerald Hightower. Oswell went. They fought. Father and Howland Reed survived. Everyone else died. And inside the tower, Jon stopped. Let the words sink in. Inside the tower, father found Lyanna dying in a bed of blood, and she made him promise. Promise me, Ned. Those were her words. Her dying words. Promise me. Benjen's face had gone white. Those are... His voice was barely a whisper. How do you know that? Only Ned and Howland Reed survived. Only they know what happened. I know, Jon said. And tonight, in the crypts, I'll tell father exactly how I know. And you should be there, because what I have to say, it changes everything. He walked away, left Benjen standing in the courtyard looking like his world had just tilted. Good. Let him be confused. Let him be frightened. When I tell father the truth, Benjen's presence might help. Might make father more willing to believe the impossible. Jon returned to the feast, found his seat. The meal was winding down, servants clearing plates. More wine being poured, people getting louder and drunker. Robert was bellowing a story about the Battle of the Bells, how he'd hidden in a brothel while Connington searched for him, how the bells had rung to warn him, how he'd fought his way out and killed men in the streets. Father listened, smiled at the right moments, but his eyes were distant, sad, remembering a different war, different choices. Soon Robert will want to see the crypts, to visit Lyanna's tomb, and father will take him. And that's when Robert will make his offer. We'll ask father to be hand, to bring Sansa south to marry Joffrey, to bind their houses, and that's when everything starts, unless Jon stopped it. The evening stretched on, hours passing in a blur of noise and drink and forced celebration. Jon watched, waited, catalogued threats, Cersei speaking with Sansa, promising her things, making the girl's eyes light up with dreams of being queen, Joffrey tormenting a servant, spilling wine deliberately, laughing when the boy scrambled to clean it, Jaime watching everything with that amused detachment. Like nothing here mattered, like people were just pieces in a game, and father, talking with Robert, listening to the king's plans, his schemes, his dreams of reliving youth through tournaments and hunts. Finally, Ned. Robert's voice cut through the noise. "Show me the crypts. I want to see her. Here it is." The moment. Father nodded, stood. "Of course, Your Grace. Just you and me." Like old times. They left the high table, walked toward the exit. Jon waited until they were gone. Then he stood, followed at a distance. "I need to be there. Need to hear what Robert offers. Need to intercept father afterward." The crypts were beneath Winterfell, long stone passages lit by torches, statues of dead Starks lining the walls, kings and lords going back thousands of years, the ancient kings of winter with iron swords across their laps to keep spirits from walking. Jon knew these crypts, had explored them as a boy, had hidden here when he needed to be alone. The dead had never frightened him. The living were far more dangerous. He descended carefully, quietly, heard voices ahead. Robert and father, talking. "Been too long, Ned. Too damned long since we've seen each other, since we've really talked." "It has, Your Grace. Stop calling me that when we're alone. I'm Robert, your friend, your brother in all but blood." "As you say." "There she is." They'd reached Lyanna's tomb. Jon crept closer, positioned himself behind a pillar, watched through shadows. Lyanna Stark's statue was beautiful, carved from gray stone, her face serene, peaceful, long hair flowing, hands folded over her chest. A stone rose in her hands, the blue rose of winter that grew only in the glass gardens. Robert stood before it, staring, his face twisted with grief and longing. "She was so beautiful, Ned, so fierce. Remember how she rode, how she laughed? Gods, I've never known anyone like her." "She was special," father agreed. "Quiet, sad. I dream about her sometimes, about what might have been, if Rhaegar hadn't taken her, if she'd married me as we'd planned. We'd have had children, been happy. Everything would have been different. Everything would have been different. But not the way you think. Lyanna didn't want to marry you. She loved Rhaegar, chose him, had his child, had me. The past is past," father said. "Is it?" Robert turned to him. "Sometimes I think we're still fighting those battles, still trying to win that war. And for what? Look at me, Ned. Look at what I've become. Fat, drunk, married to a woman I despise, ruling a kingdom I never wanted. Is this what we fought for? You've brought peace. I've brought boredom." Robert shook his head. "But you're still the same, still honorable, still true. That's why I need you, Ned. Why I came all this way, why I'm asking. Here it comes, the offer. I want you as my hand," Robert said. "Jon Arryn's dead. Poisoned, the Maesters. Maybe the Lannisters. Maybe someone else. I don't know who to trust anymore. But you, I trust you. Always have. You'd never betray me. Never lie. Never scheme. You're the only man in the 7 kingdoms I can rely on." Father was silent. Jon could see the conflict on his face, the desire to refuse, the pull of duty, the knowledge that saying no to the king was almost impossible. "Your Grace." "Robert? Call me Robert. Robert? I'm honored. Truly. But I belong in the North. This is my home, my place. I'm not suited for King's Landing, for Southern politics, for the nest of vipers I call a capital?" Robert laughed, bitter. "That's exactly why I need you, because you're not suited for it, because you won't play their games. You'll just do what's right, what's honest, what's necessary. That's the hand I need, Ned, not someone clever. Someone good. I have responsibilities here. Children to raise, a realm to govern. Bring them. Sansa can marry Joffrey. Our houses united. Your daughter as queen. Robb can learn to be a lord here. And the other children, they'll have opportunities in King's Landing they'd never have in the north. There it is, the trap. Sansa marrying Joffrey, father becoming Hand, everything that leads to disaster. I need to consider. Consider? Robert's voice hardened. Ned, I'm not asking as king. I'm asking as your friend, as your brother. I need you. The realm needs you. Don't make me beg. Father's face was anguished, torn. Give me time. Let me speak with Catelyn. With my children. This affects everyone. Time? Fine. But Ned, I need your answer soon. I can't keep Jon Arryn's seat empty, and I can't do this without you. They stood in silence, Robert staring at Lyanna's tomb, father watching his king and friend with sorrow. This is it. This is when father makes the choice that kills him. Unless I intervene, unless I give him a reason to refuse. Jon waited until Robert left, until father stood alone before Lyanna's statue. Then he stepped from the shadows. Father spun, hand going to his belt, then recognition, tension easing. Jon, you startled me. I'm sorry, but you said to meet you here, after the feast. I did. Father looked at him. Really looked. What did you want to tell me? What's so important it couldn't wait? Jon took a breath. This was it. The moment everything changed. I need to tell you about my mother, Jon said. About who she really was. About what happened at the Tower of Joy. About the promise you made. Father went completely still. What did you say? I know, Father. I know the truth. All of it. And you need to hear what I have to say. Before you agree to go south. Before you accept Robert's offer. Before everything that's coming happens. Jon, I don't know what you think you know, but Lyanna Stark was my mother. Jon's voice was steady, certain. She died in a tower in Dorne, in a bed of blood, giving birth to me. And her last words were, promise me, Ned, promise me you'd protect her son. Protect me, from Robert, from anyone who would kill Targaryen children. Because I'm not your bastard. I'm Lyanna's son, Rhaegar Targaryen's son. And my real name is Aegon Targaryen. The silence that followed was absolute. Father stared at him with an expression Jon had never seen. Shock, fear, something like horror. How? Father's voice broke. How do you know that? That's impossible. No one knows. Only Howland and I. He stopped. Who told you? No, one told me. Jon stepped closer. I know because I know things I shouldn't. Things only you and Howland Reed know. Things from the Tower of Joy. Things no one else could possibly know unless they were there. That's impossible. Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning. He fought you with Dawn, the great sword forged from a fallen star. He was the greatest swordsman in the Seven Kingdoms, and he nearly killed you. Would have killed you, except Howland Reed stabbed him in the back. That's how you won. Not in single combat. Not honorably. By Howland Reed stabbing the greatest knight in Westeros in the back while he was focused on you. Father's face had gone white. That's how. You've never told anyone that, Jon continued. You let people believe you defeated Arthur Dayne in fair combat. Let them think you were that skilled, that honorable. But you've always known the truth. That you only survived because your friend broke the rules of combat. And you've carried that lie for 17 years. Stop. Inside the tower, Lyanna was dying. There was blood everywhere. She was holding winter roses, blue roses from Winterfell. Dying flowers. Like her. And she made you promise. Promise to protect her son. Promise to keep the secret. Promise to raise me as your bastard so Robert would never know. So I'd never know. So I could live. Jon, please. I know because I've seen it, Father. I've seen the Tower of Joy. I've seen Lyanna die. I've seen you make that promise. And I've seen what comes next. What happens if you go south? What happens if you become Hand? What happens to all of us? And I'm here to stop it. To save you. To save everyone. Before it's too late, Father stumbled backward, caught himself against Lyanna's tomb, staring at Jon like he was seeing a ghost. The things you're saying, they're impossible. You can't know them. You couldn't know them. Unless, he stopped. unless something happened. Something I don't understand. Something did happen, Jon said. Something I can't fully explain. But I need you to believe me. Need you to trust me. Because if you go south, if you become Hand, you'll never come back. Robert will die. Cersei will seize power. Joffrey will order your execution. And everything we love will be destroyed. I've seen it. I've lived it. And I can't watch it happen again. Silence. Long and terrible. Father processing. Trying to understand. Trying to reconcile the impossible with the evidence before him. Who else knows? Father asked finally, voice barely a whisper. About my parentage? Just you. Howland Reed. And now me. And the other things? The things you claim to know about the future? Just me. And Father, I need you to refuse Robert. I need you to keep us all north. Keep us safe. Keep us together. Please. Father closed his eyes. This is madness. Everything you're saying is madness. But the things you know, he opened his eyes. I need to think. Need to understand. Will you, give me time? Until morning, Jon said. That's all the time we have. Tomorrow, Bran falls. Unless I stop it. Unless we stop it. And after that, everything else begins. Bran? What happens to Bran? He climbs. Sees something he shouldn't. Gets pushed from a tower. Breaks his back. Survives but changed. Crippled, unless we prevent it. Father's expression hardened. Who pushes him? Jaime Lannister. To protect a secret. To protect Cersei. To keep anyone from knowing what they're doing. What secret? Joffrey isn't Robert's son. None of the royal children are. They're all Jaime's. All products of incest. And if that becomes known, war. Destruction. Everything Robert fears. Father looked like someone had struck him. You're certain? I'm certain. And Father, I know how this sounds. I know it's impossible. But I need you to trust me. To believe me. To refuse Robert's offer. To keep us all here. Safe. Together. Please. A long moment. Father studying Jon's face. Seeing something there. Some truth Jon couldn't hide. I'll think, Father said finally. I'll consider. And tomorrow we'll talk again. After I've had time to process this. To understand what you're telling me. But Jon, if you're wrong, if any of this is wrong. I'm not wrong, Jon said. I wish I was, but I'm not. Father nodded slowly, turned back to Lyanna's tomb. Placed his hand on the stone. Promise me, Ned, he whispered. That's what she said. That's what she asked. And I've kept that promise for 17 years. But maybe it's time the truth came out. Maybe it's time you knew who you really are. I know who I am, Jon said. I'm Jon Snow. I'm your son in every way that matters. The blood doesn't change that. The name doesn't change that. You raised me, loved me, protected me. That makes you my father, not Rhaegar. You. Father's eyes were wet. You've grown. Become something I never expected. Something strong. And wise. And if what you say is true, if you really do know what's coming, then we'll face it. Together. As family. As pack. Together, Jon agreed. He left Father in the crypts. Walked back up into Winterfell. Into his borrowed time. Into the chance he'd been given. Tomorrow he'd save Bran. Stop Jaime. Keep the first domino from falling. And after that, they'd see. The Tower Jon didn't sleep. He lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Winterfell settle into night. Servants finishing their work. Guards changing shifts. The castle breathing around him like a living thing. Ghost was pressed against his side. The direwolf had been there when Jon returned from the crypts. Silent as always. Red eyes watching. Knowing somehow that Jon needed the comfort. The connection. The reminder that Pack survived. Jon buried his hand in Ghost's fur. White. Thick. Warm. Real. The direwolf's presence grounded him. Pushed back the dissociation that kept threatening to return. The feeling that none of this was real. That he'd wake up and be back at Castle Black dying. Or beyond the wall fighting the dead. Or anywhere except here. But this is real. I'm here. And tomorrow Bran falls unless I stop it. The plan was simple. When morning came, when the hunting party left, Jon would find Bran, would stay with him, would offer to climb with him one last time before Jon left for, where? Jon had told Benjen he wasn't sure about the wall anymore, had implied he might stay at Winterfell. But what did that mean? How did he explain the change without revealing everything? One problem at a time. First, save Bran, then figure out the rest. Jon's mind kept returning to the conversation in the crypts, Father's face when Jon had spoken the truth. The shock, the fear, the desperate need to understand how Jon could possibly know things only two living men knew. Will he believe me? Will he refuse Robert? Or will duty win again? Will he convince himself I'm mad or lying, or that the things I know came from some source other than the impossible? Jon wouldn't know until morning. Until Father made his choice. Hours passed. Jon watched the darkness slowly gray toward dawn, listened to the castle wake. Servants moving, horses being prepared, men gathering for the hunt, where Robert will drink too much, where he should die from a boar but won't, not yet. That comes later, after Father goes south, after everything is in motion, unless Jon changed it, unless keeping Father north changed everything. A knock on the door, soft, hesitant. Jon sat up, Ghost's ears pricked, alert. Jon, Arya's voice. Quiet, are you awake? Jon rose, opened the door. His sister, his cousin, stood there in her night shift. Dark hair tangled, gray eyes worried. Arya, what's wrong? I had a bad dream. She pushed past him into the room. About Bran, about him falling, and I thought I should check, should make sure he's okay. Jon's chest tightened. When did you have this dream? Just now. That's why I came. She looked at him. Do you think dreams mean things? Old Nan says they do sometimes, says the old gods send messages in dreams. The old gods. The Weirwoods, the Greenseers, Bran will become one. We'll see everything. Past and future. All time flowing together. Maybe he's already reaching back. Already trying to warn us. Some dreams mean things, Jon said carefully. Was Bran hurt in your dream? He fell from a tower, and there was something else. Something bad. But I can't remember. Arya's face scrunched up. It felt important. Like I should remember. But it's gone now. Bran's fine, Jon said. He's sleeping. Safe in his room? You promise? I promise. And today I'll make sure he stays safe. I'll keep him from climbing. Will you help me? How? Just, if you see him heading toward the towers, come find me. Tell me. I'll stop him. Arya studied him with that sharp, Stark perception. You're acting strange. Since yesterday. Since the king came. Something happened. What is it? She sees too much. Always has. It's why they couldn't keep her in a box. Why she survived King's Landing. Why she became what she became. I just want to keep everyone safe, Jon said. The royal family being here, it's dangerous. More dangerous than people realize. So I'm being careful. And I need you to be careful too. Especially around Joffrey. I hate Joffrey. Arya's face twisted. He's cruel. Yesterday he hurt a cat. Just grabbed it and squeezed it until it screamed. Then laughed. Sansa thinks he's wonderful, but I think he's a monster. He is a monster, Jon agreed. Stay away from him. Don't be alone with him. Don't trust him. And if he tries to hurt you or anyone else, run. Find Father. Find Robb. Find me. Don't try to fight him yourself. Why not? I can fight. You taught me. I taught you basics with a wooden sword. Joffrey has real weapons and guards and power. Promise me, Arya. Promise you'll be careful. She looked mutinous, but then she nodded. I promise. But Jon, you have to tell me what's going on. What you know. What has you so worried? Soon, Jon said. After today. After I make sure Bran's safe. Then I'll explain everything I can. You promise? I promise. Arya hugged him. Quick. Fierce. Then pulled away. I should go back. Before Septa Mordain notices I'm gone. She already hates me. Don't want to give her more reasons. She left. Jon closed the door. Stood in the silence. Arya dreamed of Bran falling. The old gods warning her. Or Bran reaching back through time. Or just coincidence. But either way, Another sign. Another push to act. Jon dressed. Dark leathers. Wool tunic. The bastard clothes he'd worn yesterday, buckled on his practice sword. It was a poor substitute for Longclaw, but better than nothing. Ghost rose, stretched, followed Jon from the room. The castle was fully awake now. Servants carrying food. Guards at their posts. In the courtyard, horses were being saddled, men preparing for the hunt. Jon watched from a window, saw father in his riding clothes, saw Robert, already drinking, already loud, saw Robb and Theon joining them, saw a dozen lords and knights making ready. They'll be gone for hours. The castle will be largely empty, as the report said. That's when Jaime and Cersei will find somewhere private. That's when Bran will climb. But which tower? The report had been specific. Bran was climbing toward the broken tower but fell from the first keep, the abandoned drum tower near the Lichyard and crypt entrance, the place no one went. Perfect for secret meetings. I need to make sure Bran never gets near there. Need to keep him occupied, keep him with me. Jon descended to the courtyard, found a position near the stables where he could watch without being noticed. The bastard's skill in invisibility, being present but not seen. The hunting party mounted. Robert at the head, father beside him. They rode out through the main gate. Horns blowing, dogs barking, a thunder of hooves and men heading into the Wolfswood. Jon waited until they were gone. Then he went to find Bran. His brother, cousin, was in the training yard. Already awake, already energetic, practicing with a wooden sword against a post. His movements were enthusiastic but clumsy. 7 years old and trying to be a warrior. He wanted to be a knight, wanted to serve in the King's Guard, wanted glory and honor. And instead he fell, broke his back, never walked again, became something else entirely. Bran turned, saw Jon. His face lit up. Jon, did you see the king leave? All those horses. And father's going hunting with him. Do you think they'll catch a boar? A big one? Maybe, Jon said. He approached. Bran, I wanted to talk to you. About what? About today. About spending time together. You're leaving for King's Landing soon. I might be going to the Wall. This could be our last day together for a long time, I thought. Maybe we could do something. Just the two of us. Bran's face fell. I can't. I'm supposed to. He stopped. Looked guilty. Supposed to what? Supposed to feed the crows. In the broken tower. It's my last chance before we leave. I promised them I'd come. They're expecting me. The crows. The birds he fed, his special friends as the report called them. His excuse for climbing. What if we fed them together? Jon suggested. I could climb with you. One last time. Like old times. Bran's eyes widened. Really? You'd climb with me? But Mother said climbing is dangerous. And Maester Luwin said, I know what they said. But I also know you're going to climb anyway. You always do. So if I'm with you, at least you won't be alone. At least if something goes wrong, I can help. Nothing will go wrong, Bran said confidently. I never fall. I'm good at climbing. You've never fallen. Until today. Until Jaime Lannister pushes you from a window because you saw something you shouldn't. Still, let me come with you. Please, Bran considered. Then nodded. Okay. But you have to keep up. I'm fast. I'll keep up. They walked toward the inner castle together. Ghost followed silently. Bran kept chattering about the king, about the feast, about going south, about all the exciting things he imagined waiting in King's Landing. Jon listened with half his attention. The other half was scanning, watching, looking for threats. Jaime Lannister was in the courtyard, still in his white Kingsguard armor, looking bored. Watching servants work with that amused detachment that suggested he found the whole world faintly ridiculous. He's waiting. For Cersei. For a chance to be alone with her. For the castle to empty enough that they can find privacy. Cersei herself was nowhere visible. Probably in her chambers. Probably planning. Probably thinking about how to manipulate everything to her advantage. I should kill them. Should take a knife and end this. Kill Jaime. Kill Cersei. Remove the threat entirely. But Jon wasn't a murderer. Not like that. Not killing in cold blood. He'd executed men, fought battles, done what was necessary. But assassination? Murder? That was different, and it would start a war. The king's wife and brother killed at Winterfell? Robert would demand justice, would suspect father, would destroy House Stark trying to find the killer. No. Killing them wasn't the answer. Preventing the fall was. Keeping Bran safe, keeping the secret hidden until father refused Robert and the royal family left Winterfell without taking anyone south. They reached the covered bridge connecting the Great Keep to the armory. Bran started to head that direction, toward the first keep, toward the abandoned tower. Bran, wait. The broken tower is this way. Jon pointed in a different direction. I know. But I wanted to check something first. There's this place. Bran stopped. Looked uncertain. What place? I saw it yesterday, when I was exploring. There's this old tower near the Lichyard. No one goes there. But there might be crows nesting. Big ones. And I wanted to see. Before we leave. No. He's being drawn there. Pulled toward the place where Jaime and Cersei will be. Toward his fall. Like fate is pushing him. The first keep? Jon asked, keeping his voice casual. That place is dangerous, Bran. It's been abandoned for 100 years. The stones are loose. The window's broken. If you fell there... I won't fall, Bran insisted. I never fall, and Jon, you're with me. Nothing bad will happen if you're there. Everything bad will happen. Because Jaime will be there. And Cersei. And Bran will see them. And Jaime will push. And I can't be in two places at once. Can't watch Bran and watch for Jaime simultaneously. Let's go to the broken tower instead, Jon suggested. Feed your regular crows. The ones you know. We can check the first keep another time. When father's back. When there are more people around. But, please, Bran. For me? I have a bad feeling about the first keep. Just trust me. One more time. Climb the broken tower with me. Then after, if you still want to check the other place, we'll go together. I promise. Bran looked disappointed, but he nodded. Okay, the broken tower first. But you have to promise we'll explore the first keep before I leave. I promise. Jon lied. They changed direction. Headed toward the broken tower, the ancient tower that had been struck by lightning and never repaired, where the crows nested, where Bran usually climbed. The climb was harder than Jon remembered. His body was younger, weaker. The muscles he'd built through years of training at the wall weren't there. His movements were awkward, clumsy compared to what he was used to. But Bran was effortless, climbing like a squirrel, finding handholds Jon couldn't see, moving up the tower wall with confidence that came from years of practice. He was so good at this, so natural. And they all told him to stop. All warned him it was dangerous. And he never listened, because he never fell. Until the one time that mattered. They reached the crows' nests. Bran pulled bread from his pocket, fed the birds, talked to them like they were friends, named them, told Jon stories about each one. Jon watched, listened, tried to be present, to enjoy this moment with his brother, but part of him was elsewhere, thinking about what wasn't happening, about Jaime and Cersei finding privacy, about Bran not being there to see. Is this enough? Have I changed it? Or is fate pushing toward the same ending regardless of what I do? An hour passed. The crows ate. Bran talked. Ghost waited below, looking up at them with those red eyes. We should go down, Jon said finally. Get something to eat. Check on Arya and Sansa. Can we go to the first keep now? Bran asked. You promised. I promised we'd go together. But Bran, I'm tired. The climb was hard. What if we wait until tomorrow? When I'm rested? Tomorrow we're leaving. Father said we're packing tomorrow. Getting ready to go south. This is my last chance. He's right. Tomorrow they'll be preparing to leave. Unless father refuses Robert. Unless I changed enough. Then let's go check, Jon said, but carefully. And if I say we need to leave, we leave. Agreed? Agreed. They climbed down, crossed the inner courtyard toward the first keep, the abandoned drum tower with its gargoyles and broken windows, the place that had stood empty for centuries. Jon's hand went to his practice sword. His body was tense, alert, scanning for threats. The tower was silent. Empty, no sounds from inside. No sign of anyone. Maybe they didn't come. Maybe they found somewhere else. Maybe I've already changed enough that... A sound. From above, from inside the tower. Voices. muffled but distinct. Jon froze, grabbed Bran's shoulder. Stop? What? Why? Someone's in there. In the tower. We shouldn't, but Bran had already started climbing, moving toward one of the broken windows. Curious, wanting to see who was there. Bran, no. Too late. Bran was at the window, looking in, his eyes widening, his mouth opening too. Jon moved, faster than thought, grabbed Bran, pulled him back from the window, covered his mouth with his hand. Quiet, Jon hissed. Don't make a sound. Inside the tower, the voices continued. A man's voice, a woman's, intimate, private, exactly what Jon had feared. Jaime and Cersei. They're here, they're together. And Bran almost saw. Jon pulled Bran down, away from the window, down the tower wall as quickly as he could manage. What? Bran started when they reached the ground. I said quiet, Jon snapped. He pulled Bran away from the tower, around a corner, out of sight, out of earshot. Ghost was there, silent as always. Red eyes watching. What was that? Bran demanded. Who was in there? Why couldn't I look? Because... Jon stopped. How did he explain? Because those people wanted privacy, and we'd have been intruding, and it would have been dangerous. For us, for them, for everyone. I just wanted to see who it was. I know, but you can't. And Bran, promise me you won't go back there, won't try to climb that tower again. Promise me. Why? What's wrong with it? Because if you see Jaime and Cersei together, if you learn their secret, Jaime will kill you to protect it, will push you, will cripple you, will take everything from you. Just promise me, please. As a favor, don't climb the first keep. Not today, not ever. Promise. Bran looked confused, worried. But he nodded. I promise. But Jon, you're scaring me. What's going on? Nothing. I'm just being careful, keeping you safe. That's all. They walked back toward the main castle. Bran kept glancing at Jon, uncertain, worried, but he didn't ask more questions. Jon's hands were shaking. His heart was racing, the adrenaline of what had almost happened crashing through him. That was close, too close. If I'd been a second slower, if Bran had seen, if Jaime had noticed, everything would have, but it hadn't. Bran was safe. The fall prevented, the first domino kept from falling. Now what? What happens next? Jon needed to find Father, needed to know if Father had decided to refuse Robert, needed to know if everything Jon had said in the crypts had been enough. Jon! A voice calling, female, urgent. Sansa was running toward them. Her face was flushed, excited. Father's looking for you. He says to come to his solar immediately. It's important. Jon's chest tightened. Did he say why? No. But he looked serious. And Mother's there too. And they want Robb and you. All of us. A family meeting. This is it. Father's made his decision. About Robert's offer. About going south. About everything. Go, Jon told Bran. Find Arya and Rickon. Stay with them. Don't wander off. Don't climb. Just stay safe, please. Okay, Bran agreed. He ran off toward the training yard. Jon followed Sansa toward Father's solar. Ghost padded beside him. Silent, constant. Please, please let him have refused. Please let him have chosen to stay north, to keep us safe, to protect us all. They reached the solar. Robb was already there, looking confused. Catelyn sat near the window. Her face was tight, controlled, angry. And Father stood by his desk. He looked like he hadn't slept, like he'd aged years overnight. His gray eyes found Jon the moment Jon entered. Jon. Good. We're all here. Father took a breath. I've made a decision. About the king's offer. About going south. And it affects everyone. So you all need to hear it. Jon's heart hammered. What decision? I'm refusing, Father said. I'm telling Robert no. I won't be his hand. I won't take Sansa south to marry Joffrey. We're staying here. All of us. In the north. Where we belong. Relief crashed through Jon so intense he had to catch himself against the wall. You're sure? I'm sure. Father's eyes held Jon's. You showed me things last night. Told me things. Things I couldn't ignore. Things that made me understand the danger. I don't fully comprehend how you know what you know, but I believe you. I believe the threat is real. So we're staying north. Safe. Together. Ned, this is madness, Catelyn said. Her voice was sharp. The king offered you the greatest honor possible. Offered our daughter a crown. And you're refusing? Insulting him? Throwing away everything we could have achieved? I'm protecting our family, Father said firmly. Cat, I can't explain everything. Not now, but I'm asking you to trust me. Trust that I know what I'm doing. Trust that staying north is the right choice. Based on what? A bastard boy's nightmares? Catelyn's eyes flicked to Jon. Cold. Hostile. Whatever Jon told you, whatever lies or fantasies, they're not lies, Father interrupted. And he's not just. He stopped. We're staying. That's final. Robb looked between them. Confused. What did Jon tell you? What's going on? Things that needed to be said, Father replied. Things I should have said years ago. But that's for later. For now, Robb, I need you to understand. The king will be angry when I refuse him. We'll take it as an insult. We need to be ready for consequences. What consequences? Robb asked. I don't know. But Robert's not the man he was. He's unpredictable, surrounded by Lannisters who have their own plans. We need to be careful. Need to watch. Need to protect Winterfell. You're making a mistake, Catelyn said. A terrible mistake. And when the king leaves angry, when we've lost this opportunity, when Sansa's chance to be queen is gone, you'll regret this, Ned. We all will. Maybe, Father agreed. But I'd rather live with that regret than with the alternative. Than with losing people I love because I chose ambition over safety. Than with, he looked at Jon. Than with watching everything burn because I didn't listen when someone warned me. Silence. Heavy and uncomfortable. Catelyn staring at Father with betrayal in her eyes. Robb confused. And Father looking at Jon with something like trust. Like belief in the impossible. When will you tell the king? Jon asked. Today? This afternoon when he returns from the hunt. I'll speak with him privately. Tell him I'm honored, but must decline. That my place is in the north. That I can serve him better from Winterfell than from King's Landing. He won't accept that easily, Jon warned. I know, but it's my choice. My decision. And I'm making it. Father straightened. Now, all of you go. I need to prepare. Need to think about what to say, how to phrase this, so Robert understands. They filed out, Robb still confused. Sansa quietly crying, her dreams of being queen destroyed. And Jon felt lighter than he had in years, since before the mutiny, since before the resurrection, since before everything. He's staying, Father's staying north. Sansa won't go south, won't be trapped in King's Landing, won't suffer, and Bran didn't fall, didn't see Jaime and Cersei, didn't get pushed. I've changed it, changed enough, Maybe I can save them all. But even as the hope bloomed, Jon knew better. Knew that changing one thing didn't change everything. That threats remained. That Cersei was still dangerous. That the Lannisters wouldn't just accept Father's refusal. They'll try something. Cersei will. She won't let this go. Won't let Father refuse Robert without consequence. Jon found Arya in the training yard, practicing with her wooden sword. She saw him, ran over. Did you keep Bran safe? She asked. Like you promised? I kept him safe, Jon confirmed. He's fine. Didn't fall. Didn't get hurt. Good. She studied him. Something changed. You look different. Less worried. Things are better, Jon said. Not perfect, but better. And Arya, I need you to keep doing what I said. Stay away from Joffrey. Be careful around the royal family. Don't trust them. Can you do that? I don't like them anyway, especially Joffrey. He's awful. He is, and he's dangerous. So promise me you'll be careful. I promise. The afternoon came. The hunting party returned. Robert, loud and drunk, carrying a boar he'd killed, showing it off, celebrating, acting like a man reliving his glory days. Father spoke with him, privately. In Father's solar, Jon waited outside, listening, trying to hear. Robert's voice rose, angry, loud. You're refusing me? After I came all this way? After I offered you the greatest honor? Father's response was quieter, calmer, but firm, explaining, apologizing, but not changing his mind. The argument lasted an hour. Then Robert stormed out, red-faced. Furious, he saw Jon standing there, glared. You! Robert pointed at him. The bastard, did you do this? Did you poison your father against me? Against his king? No, your grace, Jon said. Careful, respectful. Lord Stark makes his own choices. Damn him and his choices. Damn the North. Damn all of it. Robert stormed away. Toward the great hall, toward more wine, Father emerged, looking exhausted. But resolute. It's done, he said. I refused. He's angry. But I refused. We're staying north. What did he say? Jon asked. That I'm a fool. That I'm throwing away opportunity. That he'll remember this insult. That, Father stopped, that the North can go to hell for all he cares. That he should have made someone else Lord of Winterfell years ago. Someone more loyal. He'll calm down, Jon said. Eventually. Maybe. But the damage is done. The Lannisters will remember this. We'll mark House Stark as unreliable, as potential enemies. We've made ourselves targets, Jon, by refusing, by staying north. We're now threats to their plans. I know, but alive threats, safe threats, threats that are together and can defend ourselves. Father looked at him. You know more than you've told me, about what was supposed to happen, about what you prevented. Will you tell me? All of it? Yes. But not here, not now. Tonight, in the crypts again. I'll tell you everything, show you everything I can, help you understand what we're facing. The Lannisters, and others, and something worse, something coming from beyond the wall, something the whole realm needs to prepare for, something I've fought and barely survived. Father's eyes sharpened. The Watch. You've mentioned the threat beyond the wall before. What is it? The White Walkers, Jon said. The others, they're not extinct. They're coming, and in a few years they'll attack. And if we're not ready, if the realm isn't united, everyone dies. Everyone. That's impossible. The White Walkers have been dead for 8,000 years. They're not dead, they're just waiting. And they're going to return. And Father, I've fought them. I've killed them. I've watched them destroy armies. I know they're real. And I know we need to prepare. Father stared at him, processing, trying to understand. Tonight, you'll tell me everything tonight. About the Lannisters. About the White Walkers. About how you know these things. Everything. I will, Jon promised. The royal family left 2 days later. Robert still angry. Cersei coldly furious. Jaime amused by the whole situation. They packed, loaded wagons, gathered their 300 people. Jon watched from the walls. Watched them ride away, watched the threat leave Winterfell. They're gone. We're safe. For now, Benjen stayed, at Father's request. To hear Jon's story, to understand what Jon knew, to help prepare for what was coming. That night they gathered in the crypts. Father, Benjen, Robb, Jon, the men of House Stark, the wolves. And Jon told them everything, about the mutiny, about dying, about coming back, about the truth of his parentage, about the wars, about the Night King, about the long night, about everything that had happened in the years that no longer existed. They listened in silence. Disbelief on their faces, horror, gradually turning to reluctant acceptance as Jon provided details no one could know. Events that hadn't happened yet but that Jon described with perfect accuracy. You're asking us to believe you've lived years that haven't happened, Benjen said. Years that won't happen now because you've changed them. That's impossible, Jon finished. I know, but it's true. All of it. And if you don't believe me, wait. Watch. The things I've predicted will happen. Jon Arryn's murder. Robert's death if he stays king. The Lannister treachery. All of it will come. Unless we prevent it. Unless we're ready. The White Walkers, Father said. You're certain about them? I'm certain. I've fought them. I've killed the Night King. I've watched them destroy the wall. I've seen them raise armies of the dead. They're coming. In a few years. and we need to be ready. Then we prepare, Father said. We strengthen the wall. We send men and supplies. We stockpile dragon glass. We do everything necessary to be ready when they come. And the Lannisters? Robb asked. What about them? We watch them, Father said. We prepare for treachery. We make alliances. We strengthen the north. We do everything necessary to protect ourselves. Together, Jon said. We do it together, as family. As pack, Father agreed. He placed his hand on Jon's shoulder. You've given us a chance to save ourselves, to save the realm. And we won't waste it. We'll be ready. For the Lannisters, for the White Walkers, for everything. Jon looked at his father, his uncle, his brother, his family. Alive. Together. Safe. I did it. I changed it. I saved them. The future was uncertain now. The timeline altered. The events Jon remembered wouldn't happen, not the way they had. Everything was different, but they were together. They were warned. They were ready. And when the darkness came, when the Lannisters schemed, when the White Walkers marched, when everything Jon feared threatened them, they would face it. Together, as pack. As Starks. Epilogue. The pack survives 3 months later. A raven arrived from King's Landing. King Robert Baratheon was dead. Killed by a boar while hunting. Joffrey had taken the throne. And Cersei Lannister had declared herself Queen Regent. Father read the letter in his solar, with Jon and Robb present, with Benjen watching. It's begun, Father said. The treachery, the war, the Lannisters seizing power. We knew it would, Jon said. We prepared. The realm will fracture. Stannis will claim the throne. Renly will claim it. War will come. Then we stay north, Robb said, like we planned. We fortify. We prepare. We let them fight each other while we ready ourselves for what's really coming. The White Walkers, Benjen said. That's the real threat, not the Iron Throne, not the Game of Thrones. The dead. The dead, Father agreed. He looked at Jon. You've lived through this once. You know what's coming. What should we do? We make alliances, Jon said, with houses that will listen, that will see reason. We strengthen the wall. We send ranging parties to find the White Walkers, to learn their movements. We stockpile weapons, food, supplies. We prepare for a siege that will last years. And if the southern kingdoms come north? Robb asked. If Joffrey demands we bend the knee? If the Lannisters march? We defend ourselves, Father said. The north is strong. United, we can hold. And if they want to waste their strength attacking us instead of preparing for the real enemy, that's their choice. We'll be ready either way. What about Sansa and Arya? Jon asked. They're safe here, but they wanted to go south, wanted adventure. They'll be unhappy. They'll be alive, Father said. That's what matters. They'll learn. They'll grow, and they'll understand eventually why we made this choice. Jon nodded, looked out the window at Winterfell. At home. At the family he'd saved. Sansa's here. Safe. Not trapped in King's Landing. Not suffering. Just learning to be a lady. Learning to be strong. Arya's here. Learning to fight properly. With Syrio Forel, Father hired him to teach her when she proved she wouldn't stop. Learning to be the warrior she wants to be. Bran's here. Whole. Walking. Climbing. Not crippled. Not broken. Just a boy dreaming of being a knight. Rickon's here. Growing. Learning. Protected. Robb's here. Learning to lead. Not marching to war. Not dying at a wedding. Just being the heir he was meant to be. And Father's here. Alive. Leading. Preparing us for what's coming. The future Jon had lived through was gone. Erased. Replaced by something new. Something uncertain. But they were together. They were prepared. They were the pack. And the pack survived. Always. Jon Snow, who had died and come back, who had fought impossible wars, who had lost everything, had been given a second chance. And he'd used it to save them all. Whatever came next, they would face it together, as Starks, as pack, as family. And when winter came, when the White Walkers marched, when the dead rose, when the long night threatened, they would be ready, together. The North remembers. And now, the North prepares. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.